The Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Shady Rays. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. And we're also brought to you by the NBA Playoffs Survivor Challenge. We're giving away $250 cash and a $100 gift card. Sign up today exclusively on the SGPN app. Degens assemble. Welcome to Fantasy Football Heroes and Villains, presented by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. I'm your host, Justin Bruni. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Andrew, the TD King, Rob. How we doing, sir?
Great, man. Great to be back. Talking some fantasy villains. You been doing any best ball drafts recently?
No, I'm going to do a good set tomorrow to prepare for our draft this upcoming Thursday. We've got Pete Overzet coming on. Had a busy weekend with the family in town. You know, it's kind of like tough to like get away for, an hour plus, when you got family visiting, like, hey, sorry, I got time for you. I'm doing this draft. So, I had a little bit of a reprieve from the holiday. So no drafting over the weekend, but am excited to do some drafting this week. If you haven't, be sure to put that on your calendar this Thursday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, we're going to be drafting with Mr. Pete Overzet. Going to be a lot of fun, and you can come draft with us. So as long as you check in on time, we usually try to get a pretty low occupied lobby. So come in, draft with us. We'll have a good time. Tonight you can hear us, preach about some do not draft players, some fantasy football villains. We're actually playing hero, if you will, Andrew, this evening, by giving out that key advice to fans and followers, players that we're absolutely staying off of at their ADP. Anyone in particular that you'd like to get this conversation started with?
No, man. Why don't you pick your favorite one off your list and let's start there.
If we're going for my favorite, like big boom factor, it's got to be Christian Watson. He's going at a underdog rating of wide receiver 23, and that is rich, if I do say so myself. No more Aaron Rodgers. That touchdown percentage just has to come down. I think he had like 9 total touchdowns on less than 70 total touches, or maybe just over 70 total touches. Absolutely ridiculous. He was getting touchdowns left and right. I don't believe that this team is going to be a deep ball friendly type of squad. I think that we could see them merge into something similar to what we've seen out of teams like the Falcons or maybe even the San Francisco 49ers, where they're, running the ball into the ground, using multiple backs and, dinking and dunking with more of a West Coast type of offense, right? So I feel not as good about Jordan Love as I would about Aaron Rodgers. I don't like this receiver group overall. He's probably going to be the best, position player outside of maybe Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, but it's just not a situation that I'm excited about. And like I said, I have his value parked well outside of wide receiver 3 territory. He is just not someone that I trust or believe in this year. Christian Watson, villain.
Yeah, this was one, when you sent over a couple people that you wanted to talk about, this was one that I have some questions on for you. So
okay,
you said he's wide receiver 23, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, end of the wide receiver 2 range. He was pretty good last year. And I know the caveat is he was with Aaron Rodgers and didn't start out the year, playing, once he did come back back pretty strong. He seemed like a pretty reliable target there. He's definitely, in my eyes, the go-to guy behind Aaron Jones here for a target share. I expect Aaron Jones to actually have a larger target share than he did last year, but he should be in line for, to be the number 2, if not number 1 guy. Green Bay, I think, is going to try to pound the ball, especially if they are going to have Jordan Love there. So I understand the case there. I guess my question to you is, normally we see wide receivers break out, in year two normally, and this will be year two for him. He had a very good college profile coming into the NFL because I did write about him in the offseason last year as a targeted guy that I was looking at getting in drafts. And I guess my question to you is, what are you projecting him for target wise? Where do you think he's going to fall? Because I think that for me is probably going to be what I want to focus on with Christian Watson is the amount of targets he's going to get because he was good with the targets he got last year. So where do you have him slated in roughly for targets?
Probably still a little less than 100. I do think that if anything, his value, where you could see a boost from him, maybe something that's not as expected, is getting dual production, like rushing production, receiving production. I had mentioned, this team could mirror something of the San Francisco 49ers. If they use him in like a Deebo Samuel type of role, that would be very interesting and intriguing. I'm not sure that they're going to go full Deebo in this scenario. I think that they're going to draft some position players as well to try and load up some talent around Jordan Love. It seems like he's going to be the guy that they move forward with. I suppose I wouldn't be surprised if they made, a big move to, go up and get a quarterback, but it just doesn't feel like they're in that boat, and it doesn't really feel like them. It doesn't really feel Packers-esque, if you will. So I feel like they feel like they're comfortable with what they have, and they're just going to try to build on it. I don't think that they want to have, what they perceive as a very set playbook. And so Christian Watson could be used in some unique ways, but I think that his value, like I said, is very upheld by a higher threshold of touchdown percentage. You said, yeah, he came back strong, but that was because he was scoring all these touchdowns. I don't know if I would put him over 5 total touchdowns this upcoming year in this offense with Jordan Love. Maybe he does have a lot of catches, but I don't think he's going to boom for you. And really overall, like this take is firmly based off of just guys around him. I love receivers this year. We've been talking about it, just banging the drum, draft receiver over running back, right? And there's just so many names that I just like at their value ahead of him. And like I said, I'm bringing him back to wide receiver 42. Like it's way back there. So, he's going, closer to, I would say around like maybe Michael Thomas territory, Rashad Bateman territory, Jayon Dotson territory. There's a lot of names ahead of him that I just don't like as much. And there are some names ahead of him that I don't prefer that have also come down my board.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm looking now, just Establish a Run has it listed as, so Christian Watson is wide receiver 26 is what they have him listed as. He's going around the likes of Keenan Allen, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, Tyler Lockett, Jerry Jeudy, Chris Godwin. Like I do agree with you. There's at least 3 guys there that I really like a lot more than Christian Watson. I think his cost is okay because I can see the talent there and I can see the ability to earn targets on this team that really doesn't have a whole lot going for it right now. I mean, they got Romeo Doubs. They obviously shipped off Alan Lazard. They shipped off a Big Bob Tunyon. So, I mean, the target share, I think, is there for him. It's will he be efficient with those targets? I think he can be, but I could definitely see why you think in this range of where he's going that he will end up as a bust. So I don't disagree with you. I hope that the talent wins out for him.
Yeah, it's just too expensive of a ADP cost, in my opinion. And again, I still feel like this is going to be a very run-heavy schemed roster and team. I want to get guys that are going to be, involved in, higher volume of passing, right? That's just the way I look at it. I think with Aaron Rodgers there, Aaron Rodgers was still beat up last year, and he was just finding Watson for touchdowns. So I'm not saying that you're going to see a huge drop off. You may see similar numbers, but you're definitely not going to get the same type of touchdown return. That much I am certain of.
Yep.
All right, who's your villain? Who's your first man up?
So, you know what? Let's keep it with wide receivers here, and I'm going to go Mike Evans. Currently ranked as the 29th wide receiver. A lot of this is not me disliking Mike Evans. I don't even hate that he's going as wide receiver 29. I just think even at where he's going, the issue for me is the quarterback carousel, the quarterback issues there right now, right? It's either Baker or Kyle Trask. Neither one of them are inspiring. Baker has only produced 2 1,000-yard receivers in his career. And then, and that was a few years ago now. I think the pass game as a whole is less likely, to be effective, obviously, since there's no more Brady there. I think really Mike Evans is going to have to like improve his red zone efficiency. I took a look at his numbers, and it's not very good in the red zone. He's more of the deep downfield threat, and a lot of his touchdowns come from beyond 20 yards. So I think if he can improve his red zone efficiency, then maybe he'd be able to pay off here. But I mean, with the quarterback issues, with Godwin's there, which I think favors what Baker can do and what Baker's preferred route tree is. Not saying that he isn't willing to be a gunslinger, because we obviously know he will be, but I don't think he's going to be very efficient in this offense. So I think for me, Mike Evans has to go mid to late round 7 or later for me to even want to take a shot on him. Anything before that, I'm definitely staying away. I would much rather have Chris Godwin in this offense. And I think honestly that they want to run the ball a little bit here too. I mean, Rachaad White's a very good running back, and we saw that last year, and I think they want to get him involved again. So, all those things are kind of making Mike Evans a fantasy villain, fantasy ADP villain in my eyes, even though I do think he can be a wide receiver 3. So I think he's going where he should be. I just don't want to take the risk on him because of all the uncertainty going on with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No, I can absolutely get down with that. I have him pretty much right at his ADP. I haven't moved him up. I haven't moved him down. So no real overreaction for me. I'm also in the pool of belief that the Buccaneers could still be shopping for a quarterback. They feel like a team that could get aggressive and maybe move up to that 3rd pick, maybe even, put Mike Evans in a move, that could include the swap for that, maybe improve his situation on another roster with a better quarterback. I'm not sure, but I could definitely see them moving up for maybe like a Will Levis, or, trying to attack, grabbing Anthony Richardson after the 1-2, just seeing how everything, falls into place. Because it's just hard for me to believe that the Buccaneers are going to move forward full steam ahead, full confidence. Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield. There's just got to be a different answer here.
Yeah. Do you think Mike Evans can be traded?
Yeah. I mean, he's on the market. He's absolutely available right now. I don't care what anyone from Tampa Bay says. That's definitely a name that's getting shopped. I mean, he is a win now type of receiver. He definitely has that type of vibe that could go to a contender. Absolutely right now.
Okay. I mean, and that was a caveat when I was thinking about this. I'm like, he could be moved, and then this is a mute point, because if he's let's say he just randomly gets moved to the Chiefs, right? Like his ADP now is favorable at that point. So it really depends on where he would go. But as of right now, where he's going, it's a stay away for me.
Yeah, I think this situation could develop positively for him as we get closer to week 1, whether it be a Tampa Bay, upgrade at QB, or just being moved in a deal, maybe on draft night, to greener pastures, maybe potentially a better quarterback situation. Yep. Before our next pick, why don't you go ahead and talk to the folks about Shady Rays?
Yes, Shady Rays. I before we even got them on as a sponsor, I already had Shady Rays. So I love Shady Rays. My wife has some. That they're very good. So to kick off the new year, they do have some new gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Ray have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premier polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. I think one of the best things I like about Shady Ray is that if you lose or break a pair, even on day 1, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. So wear your Shady Rays with confidence, because they have your back long after your purchase. And again, like their polarized is really good. I wear them a lot when I go kayaking or fishing, because unfortunately sometimes when you're trying to reel in a big fish, shit gets hairy, and I have definitely lost some overboard and watched them float to the bottom. Now I don't have to worry about jumping in and trying to get them. I can just hit up Shady Rays and they will replace them. So lastly, here about Shady Rays, exclusively for all of you, our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the Shady Rays, rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people.
Man, that's a really great deal by Shady Rays. It kind of makes them what we would call a
let me be your hero.
A hero.
Oh, I thought you were going to go for
Mrs. Robinson. You're trying to seduce me.
Oh, that is true. That is true. They are
seducing us into buying their stuff.
Oh, I mean, SGPN promo code. Let's ride. We're also brought to you by the NBA Survivor Challenge. Make sure to check out our NBA Playoffs Survivor Challenge. It's completely free to enter, and the winner gets $250 cash and a $100 SGPN gift card. This is offered exclusively on the SGPN app. All right, so we had Christian Watson, we had Mike Evans. Let's shift over to a running back in DeAndre Swift. Pun intended there. Swift is coming off the board at RB22. I have him backed up about 7 spots, so not a complete, boom, downgrade here in value like a Christian Watson, but do have him held back about 7 spots to RB29. I have David Montgomery right now at RB30. I do suspect some movement between their value in the player market, as we approach the draft, post-draft, et cetera, as we move through the offseason, because my opinion is that DeAndre Swift will be moved. Until that actually does happen, until that's a reality, I have to downgrade him. I want to believe that teams like, the Chiefs or the Bills could be in on him, maybe trying to make a draft night trade, because it just doesn't feel like he's going to want to be there long-term with the Lions, who completely just, continue to dismiss him and not use him, to his desire. So last year it was with Jamal Williams. This year now it's with David Montgomery. Maybe they even draft a guy. My thought is that they probably will draft a guy. It's probably after a DeAndre Swift draft night move, maybe somewhere through the middle of the first round, end of the first round, we see that move maybe go down, maybe getting back, a second or a third round pick. I think, he would be very, very valuable, to a team that would be trying to acquire him, because he just has the feelability of an every down back, just hasn't been able to get that type of opportunity. So until that changes, I cannot hold him with any type of hero praise. He's definitely closer to villain, category more so than hero right now, at least, as a Detroit Lion.
Yep, agree. Swift is also a stay away from me right now with the uncertainty of his usage, the uncertainty on, is he going to be on this team? I think he's going to be, but there's a little bit of thought in my mind that they could still trade him. He's a good running back. Like last year, I had no idea what they were doing with him. He would get in there, be effective, but they would only use him like 7 times a week. Like it was weird. I don't know if he was a little bit more hurt than they let on or what the case was, but it was, definitely an interesting scenario. So it makes me want to stay away from him because of the uncertainty. Also, I think that the passing game is going to take an uptick here for the Lions as well. He is a passing down back, but I think that they want to take this downfield a little bit more, use Amra, use Jameson Williams, right? Like they got those guys for reasons. And I think that they're going to want to do that. So I completely agree with you. He's a stay away from me, at least at his current ADP. If he keeps following, though, I'll take a shot here or there that he maybe goes somewhere else, or maybe they realize that they have a good running back in DeAndre Swift and want to utilize him a little bit more. So we'll see what they do, moving forward. But yeah, I agree. At his current ADP, it is a stay away.
Yeah, just not a situation I'm looking to get into. Before we move on, just want to hit one last word from our sponsor. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is a great place to get down on fantasy and player props all year long. Underdog Fantasy has your favorite NBA, NHL, MLB daily games. Plus, they're already doing best ball drafts for the 2023 NFL season. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com, promo code SGPN. And we're back. We're talking fantasy football villains on Underdog. Guys that we are absolutely staying away from. Villains in our lineups, going to ruin our drafts, prioritizing these guys ahead of just ADP steals. If you don't know what ADP steals are, they're ADP heroes. Check out our last episode on Spotify. If you are a Spotify listener, also be sure to answer the D-Gen question of every episode. Just go to Spotify and grab the Q&A section. It'll have the question listed. You listen to the podcast, just answer the question. Boom, you're gaining points for free stuff. This month, we're giving away a free $50 gift card to the SGPN store. Who is your next villain up, Andrew? Who's your next man on your list?
Next guy up, we'll keep it with the running backs here, and we'll go Josh Jacobs, currently listed as the 6th RB off the board.
Okay.
This is it seems pretty easy to me in my eyes that he's a stay away. He had 340 carries last year, 393 touches. Again, that's 340 carries, 393 touches. That's a shit ton. That's a lot of wear and tear on the body. Now, I'm not super overly concerned about that because, again, he is, I think, 25 or 26, so he's still relatively young. But I don't think he's going to get this type of volume again. Really, he did all his damage because of the volume. Now, he did have a couple of really long runs, that helped as well with his numbers and his touchdowns. But I don't believe that he's going to get this volume. Their O-line actually also produced more, they produced more than they expected to do at the start of the season. So they got a little lucky with their offensive line and what they were able to produce. They opened up some holes for him. I think it was his first season that he's had where, he gained more yards than less before contact as well. So there's a couple of things working against him. He's currently going in round 2, somewhere from beginning to middle of round 2. I prefer him as a mid to late round 3, if not later. I doubt he's going to make it there in a lot of leagues that I'm in. So he's a stay away for me at, RB6. I also, there's quarterback change. Not that that's a bad thing. Derek Carr to Jimmy G, it's kind of like the same, right? So, that doesn't really change it for me. But they still have Devontae Adams. They went out and got Jacoby Myers. They still have Hunter Renfrow, even though it looks like he might be shopped in the market. They did send out Darren Waller. So, they had a few moving parts. But last year, they also did draft Zamir White. I don't think they're going to give him a full workload by any means, but I do think they're going to integrate him a little bit more than they did last year. That also works against Josh Jacobs. So, between all the touches he got and, the offensive line, again, produced more than they should have last year, and Zamir White will hopefully get a little bit more involved at his current cost in round 2. I just don't see why people are pulling the trigger on it. Maybe if this is a standard league, maybe he creeps into round 2 for me, but any half PPR to PPR leagues, best ball leagues, I don't really want anything to do with Josh Jacobs. I just think that it was an outlier that we saw last year, and at his current ADP, it's just, it's too rich. I think we're drafting him at his ceiling, as opposed to last year, you were getting him around 6, 7, somewhere in there, 8. And he obviously, way overproduced that. So I just think we're drafting him where he could finish. And to me, there's just no value at his current ADP.
Yeah, I suspect them to have a run-heavy offense, but I also expect them to go shopping for a running back. I believe they tagged Josh Jacobs, so they're not committed to him long-term. I don't think he's going to get moved by any means, but I do believe that they're going to go ahead and attack the position in the draft. You'll probably see a healthy bit of Zamir White. We got Jake in the chat asking about what round he was going in last year. Last year is a super huge discount. Remember Hall of Fame night?
Yeah.
Preseason week 1. It's like, it's over. Josh Jacobs' career is over. He's starting. The sky's falling for Josh Jacobs.
I remember him going anywhere from round 6 to 9, I believe. I remember I saw him in best ball. It was funny. Like he was kind of the guy that people just settled for. They're like, yeah, all right, he made it here to round, 8, round 9. I guess I'll take him, right? Like, so it was kind of funny to watch that and see how that all played out. But I know in a couple home leagues I remember him going around 6 and 7 in those as well. So I guess it really depends on the drafters, but anywhere from 6 to 9 is where he was going last year.
You either die the hero or live long enough to become a villain. Josh Jacobs, here we are. All right, bringing it back to another running back. I think you'll like this one. You always like to throw some shade to the Dallas Cowboys. I got Tony Pollard here. Tony Pollard right now, wow, expensive, my friend. Like, I mean, total Ferrari status, in my opinion, for Tony Pollard standards. RB11. I mean, don't get me wrong. Great season, a lot of usage. I love it. But I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys buying another running back in this draft is being calculated into these rankings right now. Like, they are absolutely going to go out and get another guy. I mean, Rojo, who they signed this offseason, that's not going to move the line. That's not going to be, a line mover for Pollard's ADP. No one's going to react to that and go, oh man, I got to check myself on Tony Pollard. I got to back him up a couple of rounds. Not saying that that's the case. I'm not trying to counter argue that, but I am arguing that they are going to attack the position. They have many different backs mocked to them right now, whether it be, a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, Sean Tucker, Devin Akine. There's been a lot of talk about them going after a running back. Again, just don't feel like that's built into this ranking right now. I have him at RB21, which I think is pretty respectable. I just also believe that this team is going to pass a lot. I think the numbers will probably be balanced. You'll probably see them maybe anywhere from like the 14th to the 16th highest rushing team. But I think overall, you're going to get that feel from them like, oh man, Dak's going to go out there and pass 35 plus times most games, more often than not. So I feel like the offensive scheme will shift to something of a more balanced attack, especially with running back touches once they get another guy in there. What are your thoughts on Pollard?
Yeah, I kind of keep going back and forth. I really don't like the whole Pollard injury thing, though. I did just read an article that said that they do not believe that this will impact his future ability, even though he did break his fibula. So, I don't know if I fully believe that. I think it is going to hinder him just maybe a little bit, especially at the start of the season. But I don't think I'm going to have him ranked as far back as you do. I'm going to be,
Okay.
I'm going to split the difference, because I did start working on these rankings. So I think I'm going to split the difference. I think his ability is there. I think the usage could be there because again, they really like Tony Pollard, and we all saw it the last couple of years, right? That he was much better than Zeke. We all knew it. Now they finally caught on, and they are planning on using this, quote unquote Ferrari, as you like to call it. So I think that the usage will be there for him as well. Will he be as effective is what I'm wondering in my mind. I'm not sure that he will be as effective because he's going to get more volume now. So his efficiency is going to come down, but the volume should balance it out a little bit. I fully agree with you. I do think they are going to bring in somebody else, whether that is somebody from the draft or whether that's one of these still remaining guys out there. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be somebody in the draft. So there's a lot of good running backs in this draft. So they could bring in somebody that is pretty close to Pollard's ability as well. So it does concern me. I don't want to take him as high as he's going now. So I fully agree with you, but I don't want to rank him as low as you. So I'm going to be in the middle. I think somewhere in the rounds, maybe end of round 3 into round 4 is where I feel comfortable with him. I think he is going in the round 2, maybe early 3 right now. So I'm not too far off from that, but I can definitely see your case on why you think he's a bust at his current ADP.
I don't know what happened to you, man. You're going soft. Like you used to be completely anti-cowboy. I don't know what happened.
What happened? Did your balls drop off?
I don't know what happened. I figured this is going to be a slam dunk. Split the difference. I mean, it's not a complete counter argument, but I guess I get it. 21 feels like a safe place for me. I was more referring to the ranking as a Ferrari type of ranking because Tony Pollard is a top 12 RB, just feels a little rich. It sounds like you do agree he's closer to mid RB2 territory than he is back end RB1. So we can at least agree on that. You're more front end RB2. I'm more back end RB2, which I still think is pretty close. If you had him anywhere from 15 to 16 to my 21, we're definitely splitting hairs there. But again, like, it's not like we're believing that like Rojo's going to steal any touches. I think that it's really going to be predicated on them drafting someone with priority, in this upcoming draft, maybe at the end of round 1. A lot of people have been talking about Bijan going there. I just don't find it very likely, but I could see them maybe settling for a Jahmyr Gibbs as the second running back off the board. And I think that he would complement Pollard as a third down back. He would be a very good pass catcher. Maybe not the best pass blocker, but I think you could set up a very good situation with a 1-2-3 between Pollard and a guy like Gibbs, if not Gibbs.
Yes. And Established Run does have him listed as RB11 as well. That's where they have him ranked. It's just those guys. So the guys going around him is kind of where I'm like at with what I want to rank him, because Josh Jacobs is there. Obviously, I like Pollard more than Josh Jacobs. Derrick Henry's there. That one's, I don't know. I kind of like Derrick Henry a little bit more, even though all signs are
the guy who can rush for 2,000 yards, not total yards, rush for 2,000 yards. Yeah, we'd like him.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just something that's pointing me to like the Derrick Henry cliff is going to hit at some point, and I'm not sure I want to be on it when it falls off.
If you believe that, then Cooper Kupp is already dead. Like, you might as well bury Cooper Kupp. Well, I'm saying people have that same argument. Like, Cooper Kupp is going to retire. Like, what? Why? He's not even 30 years old. He's 29. Like, come on. Why would Cooper Kupp retire? If anything, he would just get traded. You know what I mean? I'm waiting for Cooper Kupp to get traded to the Chiefs, like any day now.
It could happen. But yeah, I mean, with these other guys around Pollard, like Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, like all those guys are similar to me. So I'm not sure exactly where he's going to fall in there, but I don't think the ranking's too obscure, but I'm definitely going to move him back a little bit. There's some other guys I'd rather take it. You know, I guess for me with the ADP of Pollard is there's wide receivers I like around him, which is why I don't normally draft Tony Pollard. I don't necessarily think people shouldn't draft him, but there's just other positional players around him that I like better.
Yeah, no, it's the same thing here. I think the only other guy that I would kind of throw into that mix that's around the same ADP is Ramondre Stevenson. It's hard for me to buy into buying a Patriots running back that high. For comparison, Ramondre Stevenson's at RB 13 to Pollard's RB 11. And again, we just saw a great season out of Ramondre Stevenson, but I've played that game with Bill. I've played that game with the Patriots before. Going back to the well, expecting the same type of production, it's called insanity. Expecting the same outcome over and over again. It's not going to happen with Patriots running backs.
Yeah, I think it's really going to show us what they do in the draft. If they don't pick anybody, then it's Ramondre Stevenson's season again.
Don't be surprised if they sign another veteran though after the draft if they don't come back with anybody, because I know that they like Harris. I know they like Kevin Harris. They signed James Robinson to what they consider to be a reserve role. He's not going to play, he's not going to play a lot, but he's going to play.
And they have Pierre Strong. Pierre Strong he only ran the ball 10 times last year, but he was effective. He had almost a 10 yard per carry average or something like that. So it was something crazy. But I don't know. I like Ramondre more than Tony Pollard is the end of story there.
Okay. That's fine. What about Dalvin Cook? He's parked at RB 15. I don't think either of us are drafting him at that ADP.
No, I'm kind of out on Dalvin Cook, to be honest with you. I read some stuff and he's less efficient as he was. I think he's still going where he's going due to his name.
No, fair enough. Rip the name off the jersey for sure.
Yep.
Also could land in a better scenario, right? This was a team that was talking about potentially getting David Montgomery. Had he not gone to Detroit, how would the dominoes have fallen with that scenario? I have to believe that Dalvin Cook would have just been gone. Maybe that is still to come. Maybe, we're, waiting on any second for that, or it could be a draft night thing. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, particularly at that ADP, Josh Jacobs, Tony Pollard, Ramondre, Dalvin Cook, it's a tough space. But I think for you and me, probably 70, 80% of the time, we're like, see you later. They're called wide receivers. That's where we're going. Or, maybe we're making a stand with an early tight end or something like that. I know I've been drafting, a lot of TJ Hawkinson early. So, I agree with you. I just don't like them at their ADP either.
Yeah. I see Jake Paquin here talking myself into Najee this year. I also am. The more I look at it and where he's going, again, he's going as running back 14. I think I'm going to have a decent share of Najee Harris this year. I want to dive a little bit more into him and what I think his production can be with the amount of volume he's going to get. But I'm with you, Jake. I think Najee is going to have a much better year.
I think we're all just buying into year 2 of Kenny Pickett, another year with that offensive line after Ben Roethlisberger. We saw Najee have a great finish to last season. I actually traded a first-round pick this year in Dynasty for him last year, and I feel better and better about it as the year went on. Obviously now through the offseason, there was just all that talk about Jaylen Warren, taking over the job. It's his backfield now. It's Najee 1B to the Warren 1A. And man, Najee just shut all that shit down. He said, nah, it's my ball. Give me that rock 20 plus times. He's also getting that 4 to 5 catch range as well. I'm very, very hip to the Najee Harris scene this year for sure. All right. Next up I have is kind of like a twosome because it's kind of the same situation. And that's Calvin Ridley and George Pickens. And I just fundamentally disagree with taking those players over the real wide receiver ones on their team. Calvin Ridley, I absolutely love the talent, but being as removed from the game as he's been with the suspension, with the injuries, it just doesn't feel appropriate to be drafting him ahead of Christian Kirk. Maybe he is the overall better receiver, but Kirk has been there. He has that chemistry with Lawrence. This is going to be a team that passes the ball down the field a lot. So when I see Calvin Ridley going that much farther ahead of Christian Kirk, I want to say it's about 8 to 9 ADP value, somewhere in that range or in the position rank. It's just a gift. I don't know if he actually is a villain, he's a villain if you take him at that ADP, but it's almost like he's a hero because I'm just kind of like shielded and protected, by his ADP to just sneakily grab Christian Kirk and stack him right along with Trevor Lawrence. And the same thing goes for George Pickens with the Steelers. He's being ranked ahead of Deontay Johnson, who has had 140 plus targets in 3 straight seasons. Kenny Pickett isn't going to get worse. He's not going to get dead arm like Ben Roethlisberger. And even when Ben Roethlisberger had dead arm, he still targeted Deontay Johnson over 140 plus times. Deontay Johnson is firmly slated as the top priority in this offense behind the running game. That's it. Like, there's the run game. That's how we're setting it up. And then it's bada bing with Deontay Johnson. It's a rope-a-dope, all right? I have no idea why he's going at such a discount. You and I have discussed it before. Most likely just a complete overreaction to the 0 touchdowns last year. But I cannot suggest or outright push Calvin Ridley or George Pickens onto followers and listeners with priority with, again, the appropriate wide receiver 1 on their roster being drafted behind them. It's just a complete miscalculation for me. I do believe it gets corrected, but right now, it's fast times, baby, in these drafts, right? We're moving fast in these streets. We're wheeling and dealing on this market, and you got to get these values while they still last. So Calvin Ridley, Pickens, villains in my eyes, but also heroes, secret heroes, anti-heroes, if you will, because they're helping us. They're protecting us. What do you got?
So the difference between Ridley and Kirk is Ridley's wide receiver 18 off the board. Kirk is wide receiver 26. Established run has them ranked as 19 and 20, so back to back. So I think that it's
cowards.
Yeah, I think that it is more or less of they're not sure who's going to actually be the facto 1 there because we have no idea what Calvin Ridley is going to do. I mean, we didn't see him all last year due to the suspension. Last time we did see him, it was pretty good though. So I can see why they're ranked back to back. I have actually cooled down a little bit on my Ridley hate, but not to the effect of I think that he should be going 8 spots over Christian Kirk. So I do agree with you there. Ridley, though, I think he has something to prove, and I think that the Jags want to get him involved and show that, I think they want to stick it to the NFL a little bit, right, for the whole suspension over. He should not have been suspended for a whole year for what he did, as opposed to what other people have done and get off with 4 or 6 game suspensions. So I think they want to stick it to him a little bit. So I'm kind of in on both of them, but I do agree that they should be closer. I think Ridley should be moved back a little bit closer to Kirk as opposed to Kirk moved up to Ridley. As far as the Steelers wide receivers, let me look on here real quick.
Just for reference, I have them completely swapped. I have Ridley at 26, and I have Christian Kirk at 18. Completely flipped.
Okay. So let's see here. So I see...
And Christian Kirk may very well finish ahead of that ADP come end of the year.
Deontay Johnson here. Currently going off as wide receiver 39. Established run has him as wide receiver 36. And I'm looking for...
my wide receiver 20.
I was looking for Pickens.
Yeah, that's right. I have him up 19 spots. No big deal, folks. No big deal. Smash the like button on that, will you?
Man, I'm like having a hard time finding the Pickens on this list here.
Well, he is ahead of
here he is. He's
DJ. So
he's wide receiver 36 on Underdog, wide receiver 39 ranked on Established Run. So they do agree with us and you that DJ should be the one ahead of Pickens.
It's just bad math, Underdog. Don't get me wrong. You've got a great platform, but the algorithm here, you messed up, buddies. You messed up. It's just not right. I'm sorry. Fix it, please. Thank you.
Or don't, because I like getting them at a value.
I don't know. I would prefer them almost to swap it now because I've gotten so many shares. At this point, I need that shit shut down.
That's
We're becoming a more popular brand, Andrew. The word's getting out about DJ. I don't know how many more times I'm going to be able to say it, but between now and week 1. And actually in a dynasty draft I just did, I think I took him as my 3rd receiver or something like that. And I got him at a huge steal. And I was thinking oh man, all these teams are going to take him. And he went 9 picks untouched. I was like, thank you. Appreciate you. Also stacked Trevor Lawrence and Christian Kirk in that draft. Hallelujah.
Yes. Stacking. Very important if people don't know yet.
Not so much in the dynasty and redraft, but definitely in the best ball for sure.
Right.
But I like to get a good solid one though. If I have a good young quarterback like that who's going to be around for a while, let me get his top target for a couple of years for sure. Absolutely. especially if you're just buying in on them, which I agree with you too. Like, it's not that my arguments against these guys is, a argument against their talent or what they can be. It's about the underdog value. That's all it has to do with. I love Calvin Ridley. He is that dog. He is him. He is one of us. He is a degen. So I'm all about sticking it back to the NFL. Freaking Goodell getting paid, what, $64 million or some garbage? Like, doing what, buddy? You don't even put the schedule together. Like, that guy deserves like that much money. Not you, pal. Come on. What does he do other than show up? He's like the vice president. Like, you know what I mean? They just show up and shake hands and shit and smile. Like, what is he actually doing? All right, who's your next villain? We got a couple more to go here.
Next villain here is, and this might surprise some people, but it's George Kittle. George Kittle, hold on, let me pull it up here. He is currently going as he's currently going as tight end 4 on actually tight end 5 on Underdog, tight end 4.
7.
Yeah,
I have him as tight end 4 after
PTR.
Hawkinson and Andrews.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and then tight end 5 on Established to Run, so they have him ranked just one spot later. So the case for the bust on Kittle. Last year he was very good at the end of the year. That was all with Brock Purdy, right? Brock Purdy's not going to be there, right? In the start of the year, or at least it doesn't seem that way. There's questions at the quarterback position for San Francisco. So that's one. 2, target volume increased with Deebo Samuel sidelined. Deebo's going to be back, so there's another knock on him. He scored a majority of his touchdowns with Brock Purdy as well at the end of the year, so his touchdown should regress a little bit. I mean, he had multiple tight end game or touchdown games, so I don't think that that's in the realm of possibilities again. Plus, half of his games played, he had less than 30 yards. That is not good. So 50% hit rate on less than 30 yards, right? So the last little note I have on him is, I think with Christian McCaffrey getting more involved this season with an off season, he learned the playbook a little bit more. He's going to be more involved. They didn't go get him for no reason. They want to run him into the ground because honestly, after his contract, they'll probably let him go unless he's like just an absolute superstar, which he is. But unless he just blows that out of the water, I'm not sure they're going to re-sign him because they're going to beat the brakes off Christian McCaffrey. They're going to use him as much as physically possible. So
are they? Just really quick on that, because a lot of people were upset with the fact that that's not what they did, and Elijah Mitchell was actually getting used more than anticipated post CMC trade.
Yeah, to completely understand why. And I think the reason that happened is because of him not being fully integrated into the into the offense.
Yeah, okay.
They knew what he was going to be able to do, and they really, I think, just put together a package for him to keep him involved and let him be efficient.
The package was called Go. Just
yeah.
Here's the gap.
Here's the ball.
And you just go to the gap.
You see the end zone, find it. So I think that's why that happened. I don't expect that to be the case. I expect Christian McCaffrey to take a bulk of the workload there. Now, towards the end of the year, they might want to slow his roll just a little bit to make sure that he maintains health moving into the playoffs, because I do think they'll be a playoff team again. But regardless, the story against Kittle again is all these little factors. And I just think that I don't think it's bad where he's going in the position. I think it's bad where he's going in the drafts. I don't want George Kittle in the 4th round personally.
No,
I'd much rather have the other guys going around him. So I think the case just lays itself out with all the things that went right for him last year. A lot of those are probably not going to be the case moving forward.
Let's play the game here. We're going to do it. Okay. Dallas Goedert, George Kittle.
At their ADPs, like they're not their tight end ADP, but their actual ADP in rounds.
Yep.
Dallas Goedert.
Dallas Goedert, 1,000%. Evan Ingram, George Kittle.
Evan Ingram, because he's going like past rank 100. So yeah, Evan Ingram.
Darren Waller or George Kittle?
Definitely Darren Waller. Bulk of the work in New York.
Dalton Schultz.
Oh God, I knew you were going to get to that one because you like Dalton Schultz. That one's tough because I don't fully buy into the Dalton Schultz thing, but I do like where he's going. That one I'm split on. I guess I guess I'll take Schultz just because I would much rather just take the later tight end.
I have George Kittle at tight end 7. Do you think that you'll have him ranked farther than that? Schultz is
No,
number 8, so I have them at 7 and 8.
I think Kittle's going to fall right at that spot for me. Like, I'd rather have Dallas Goedert in front of him and Darren Waller. I think he'll fall right behind those guys.
1,000%, you're still going Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard. That's 5.
Yep, and
Evan
then
Ingram
Waller,
is Kittle. So that puts him to 7 or 8.
Remember, so when I say like I'm going to have Kelsey, Andrews, Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard, Waller, Kittle, that's how I like them for their actual ability. But for ADP ranking wise, like I'm going to have George Kittle in front of Evan Ingram because I think George Kittle's a better tight end. But I would be okay waiting to draft Evan Ingram.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I think all your arguments on Kittle are
and
valid.
Kittle's a great tight end. This is no knock on Kittle. He's a fantastic tight end. He's a great blocker. He's an awesome dude. Like, that dude is one of the funniest football players I've ever seen. Like, I love when they show like during the week when you watch NFL Network and they show like odd moments from the week or whatever, and like it's George Kittle like staring at the camera, like he always finds it and he's staring at it. Like, the dude's hilarious and he's a great football.
Shout out George Kittle at WrestleMania. He was getting it done.
Exactly. Like the personality of George Kittle is awesome. And I did sit beside his sister at a Washington Redskins when they were still the Redskins game versus the Niners because they're from the DC area. So I sat beside his sister, and short story, I fully didn't believe that it was the sister. She was like talking to us. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever, right? And then she's like, here, and she's like showing us pictures. I'm like, oh, I'm like, you're actually his sister. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And this is the year before George Kittle really started to break out as a tight end.
How you doing?
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, like interesting, right? So again, not a knock on George Kittle, fantastic tight end. I just don't like where he's going for his ADP. I'd rather wait and take a couple of those other guys.
Yeah, no, that's good. I really don't like any other tight ends at that ADP. Probably not taking George Kittle there. I've just taken so much TJ Hawkinson. TJ Hawkinson is my number 2 tight end. So if I'm getting him even after George Kittle, like, it's highway robbery, and I've done it a few times just because people are always drafting George Kittle on that name-by-name basis. He doesn't have a super high touchdown percentage in that offense. Again, like you had mentioned, it's going to be the CMC show, and you're even going to have your roster cloggers, just random guys getting touchdowns. Don't be surprised if your boy TPP finds the end zone a few times this year. Elijah Mitchell is going to be stealing touches. Like, there's not going to be any, over priority for anyone other than Deebo Samuel and CMC because they can be used so many different ways in that playbook. And really, if you are drafting Kittle and Underdog, you're just banking on him somehow flourishing out a double-digit touchdown season. That's not a bet that I can put a lot on. That's just not something I have a ton of confidence in. So, yeah, completely agree with George Kittle. He is a ADP villain in my book as well. All right, very good. That was a great episode. Andrew, I know that you have the Villains article coming out this week highlighting all of your key do not draft players. What day can the fans and followers expect that?
I believe we are going to get that from the articles that I know of. I told them to look back at the end of the week, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be Friday that we are releasing it. So I will make sure to get it out on social so everyone can see it. And yeah, and I appreciate any feedback from everyone. We want to make sure that what you're reading is what you want to see from us. Same thing with the podcast, right? Please make sure you guys drop us a like, rating, review, all that, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify, it doesn't matter. Please let us know if you like the show, if you want to see us do anything else. If there's topics you guys want us to hit on, please let us know. We are willing to talk about anything.
That is true. We pick the topics just about every episode, but if you fans, listeners, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you want to play a role, hey, let us know. Get us some ideas, maybe some unique things that you've been dealing with in your off season. We're all ears. Drop a review, jump in our Discord. We've got a lot of opportunities to connect with us, me and Andrew, and our other analysts. Like I said, this coming Thursday, we're going to be doing a draft with Pete Overzet on Underdog, 9 p.m. Eastern. Be here or be square.
I don't know if you know this about me yet or not, but I'm pretty excited to have him on.
6 to midnight, baby.
Oh yeah, 0 to 100.
All right, very good. Appreciate everyone following and listening. If you're on Spotify, be sure to give it a download. Be sure to give a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, before you check out, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share the video. Take care, be well, be good. But if you can't be good at it. We'll see you guys.